We're just waiting for the.
Now we are.
Okay, we're good?
Mhm.
All right. Let's come to order at 6:05. Hannah, we have nothing to report from the last meeting other than a site visit, but I'll give you that before we adjourn or before we finish up today.
Sure.
Okay, call to order 6:05. So modifications to the agenda. I've got some. Does anybody have something that we should be including? Okay, this was my oversight when when the agenda came together. We have the ethics consideration to wrap up today. Might include statements, might include some other things. And then should we also address the agenda for 413? Deb and I have been working that out, but I wonder if there are any suggestions for that. And I remind the board, I will not be physically present for that meeting, but I will be phoning in.
The only thing I have on the ethics is that it's not on the agenda, so I do not have all the information with me.
I don't know fully the role of the ethics liaison, and if there's actually anything for you to do other than there'll be a process today. I think you already have the documents that you have. Do you need physical hard copies of the statements, either in recusal or non-recusal?
I have copies of the statements, all the statements. What I'm referring to is reaching out to Attorney Murphy. I want to make sure that that's complete, which I believe it is. But
Okay.
I'm not going to speak on it until it's done.
All right.
So are you going to bring up ethics again later on in the meeting, or is this the time this week?
Well, we're modifying the agenda right now, so the question is, do folks want to do the ethics issues right away before approval of minutes or after the approval of minutes? I'm agnostic.
I guess I'm not really sure what falls under that ethics heading. Like, are we adopting a new policy, or are we?
No, definitely not. And that's sort of an interesting question as well. It's not relevant right now. I think those who were claimed to have conflicts of interest have to make a public statement of some sort in addition to the written, whatever it is that was turned into the ethics liaison. That's my understanding of how this unwinds. Anybody have a feeling about that?
I will be happy to bring it before the board and make the motion if it's gonna unwind, but I don't wanna keep winding it up week after week.
No, we don't have to, but there is like the state law that is relatively new, which is why we're kind of here, and it hasn't been coming up in the past. So I think whatever is going to resolve today resolves as far as our obligations to the statute. And I'll read this. It's 24 VSA 1992, the same one we referenced last week. We're still working through that. So if nobody objects, I would propose that we add it to the agenda before we get to the approval of minutes. Jen.
I just to bring it up, because you had brought up at the last meeting that there could be a conflict with Will because of the fact that he knew my daughter or something along that lines. Sean knows my son. He was good friends with his son. My daughter's cleaned for him in the past. Is that a conflict as well?
I think that's for Sean to raise if it needs to be. And that's a fairly granular level at this moment,
It's
so
not for me.
Okay. I just wanted to bring it up.
thank you.
Because you had mentioned, you thought it was a big deal that my daughter knowing Will was a definite conflict.
Jim, that's actually not involving you whatsoever. It's a matter that Will has to resolve, and only Will can resolve that. So I want to leave that right where it is and not go down any rabbit hole. Okay, let me say this. First of all, welcome to the Waterford meeting. I'm glad that you're all here. Secondly, what I would like to continue to work on as a work in progress is that we disagree vigorously, but we're going to do it respectfully and with decorum and keep our voices low, and that includes me. but it includes everybody else in this room as well. So more and more, I'm going to be insisting upon that, and I think we'll be more productive when we actually do that. Now, Robin, I think I know why you're here, and we're not taking public comments today, but I think when I give whatever brief statement I'm going to be giving, that might be an opportunity for you to say what you feel like you need to say.
Well, I'm here often, so.
All right, I don't want to make any assumptions. I'm just,
Right.
I received your email. I sent it to the board. I think you probably saw that transaction take place.
I sent it to the board as well.
Okay, there was no indication on the email you sent to me that
I
you
know,
sent it to the board. Okay, so I guess we'll traverse that when we get to it.
But may I ask, so you read your letter out loud asking for Will's recusal? Will you be reading that letter out loud today?
I guess I could, or since you're here, you could read it yourself.
Or Will could read it.
I have one that I prepared. Yeah, there's three of them.
Okay. And do they actually go into the notes? Because I noticed that yours did not go into the notes, the actual written minutes, excuse me.
So if I could interject.
Sure.
If you move on to the meeting minutes, then that will be addressed.
Okay.
All right, so I don't want to presume why you're here, Robin, and I'm sorry if I jumped in gun here. So we're still on modification of the agenda, and I think we're past that. What about agenda items for the next meeting, the 13th?
I'd say I'm fine having that discussion at the end of the meeting.
Okay, that's a good place for it. All right, with that. So ethics considerations, start agenda for 4:13 at the end. Anything else? All right. I have what is my non-refusal letter. I'm sorry, the ethics liaison had it in his possession on, I believe Friday. It was my second revision. And that's the one that at this moment would be published. So mine is 3 pages, and I am not reading 3 pages worth. I'm going to summarize the front section, and if folks want greater context, the whole thing will be available, I presume, on our website.
If you would move forward to approve meeting minutes, then I will speak then about that.
Does
So let's
anybody,
Make a motion to approve last meeting's minutes.
okay, then let's do that. Second for the motion? Okay, there's a motion and second on the table. And I've got 3 things that would need to be modified.
Ready.
Would you, at the portion of road commission, I think I spoke first, and it's my first sentence when I was raising the ethics issue, and just include the words pursuant to 24 VSA 1992, period.
Mm-hmm.
And then secondly, I think the minutes should reflect the fact that Will admitted an appearance of a conflict of interest, and that took place in the meeting video at 2 hours and 21 seconds, if anybody wants to reference it. And then third, I had praised Jim Hayes as road foreman for his skill and experience as a road equipment operator. And I did that first, and then other voices spoke up. I believe it was Wade next, who praised the entire road crew.
Got it.
Thank you. Anybody
Mhm.
else have some edits or modifications to the minutes?
Mr. Chairman. I would like the board to make a motion, once they approve the meeting minutes, to add the ethics letters that were received. Hannah, I've already talked to Hannah, Hannah's agreed to amend the minutes reflecting that motion, and then the recusal letters will be posted with the updated minutes tomorrow, as soon as Hannah does her revision.
Okay.
So then that would address relevant questions on the recusal letters.
As a matter of procedure, we should approve the minutes first and then amend them today.
Yes, ask for an amendment to the motion that Mr. Hallisberry made to include these in with those minutes.
Okay, so right now, we're just approving the minutes as amended.
And then I will ask Will to please sign your document.
Okay. Who seconded the motion to approve minutes?
With Kathy, but-
Okay, so Kathy, any objections to the modifications that I've proposed to the minutes? Okay. So any further modifications or edits to the minutes from March 23 last week? I'm hearing none. Move to a vote. All in favor of approving the March 23, 2026 minutes as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. Okay, so there's that. Now, Sean, you have a motion to modify again, amend the minutes. Is that how are we doing this?
Amend the minutes to include these.
The conflict of interest statements, and there are 3 of them? Okay.
I move to append the conflict of interest statements to the meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Sean, I think I heard first. Okay, any further discussion then? And we append them, do we need to actually modify the minutes themselves to reflect it, or is it just simply we append? For my edification, well, I guess I'll see at the end, but how is this done?
Jana, how do you do it?
How do I edit the minutes?
Amend the minutes at this point to include the appendages of the conflict of interest statements.
Oh, Deb, you said that I would like fix the stuff that I had to fix and then you would scan it all together to be posted.
So I guess when you fix them, put on the top of it that they are amended minutes. So we know the difference between the first version and the second version.
Mhm.
And then we should be fine.
Okay. So any further discussion on the motion and the second to append the conflict of interest statements? Hearing none. All in favor of appending, I believe it's 3 conflict of interest statements to the March 23rd, 2026 minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Here's the ayes have it, and the ayes do have it. Okay, so that's the agenda, I'm sorry, the minutes. So I think that still leaves, we have to make some brief public statement about non-recusal or recusal, either way we're going on that.
I can make a statement. Just so everybody knows that obviously I'm the liaison, which I'm not sure what I'm the liaison between because the state has no ethics committee. So with that being said, I reached out to Attorney Murphy to seek his advice on this. And what Attorney Murphy came back to me with was each select board member must make the determination for themselves to recuse or not. It appears they all believe they can be objective despite their individual perceived conflicts. The board cannot be forced to recuse themselves. There was another one too. I don't have that. Tim, you?
Another email?
Yeah, there was another one later.
Yeah,
Sure.
I saw that, it was pretty short. I don't recall that it was terribly consequential.
Okay, so I asked about the personnel policy because it's written in there under definitions.
Well, and keep going, because I was very surprised to learn something this afternoon, but go ahead.
And
Liaison.
Attorney Murphy said, no, the personnel policy that would not apply to elected officials, just town employees. So, a lot of this falls because we do not have, help me out, COI, conflict of interest policy in the town.
Well, can I address that?
Sure.
This must have been in our welcome packets that Deb distributed earlier, because lo and behold, there is a Town of Waterford conflict of interest and ethical conduct policy.
Sorry, my mistake.
Well, mine
I couldn't
too.
find it
It's not, I couldn't find it anywhere on the town website, so I
Okay.
just suddenly stumbled into this and I was like, okay, and it's dated March 21st, 2023. And it seems to be fairly comprehensive, and we've just completely not paid attention to it yet. It was signed by Gary Allard, Robert Bagan, Susan Hayes, Mike Barrett, and who was the, Warner was the chair.
So my question is that, does that affect town employees or elected?
My sense from a very brief read of it this afternoon was town employees and not affecting the select board itself. That was a brief take, and I wouldn't swear by that. And I think the obvious question is we're probably gonna have to grapple with the board conflict of interest policy as well, but that's not today's problem. All right, so the question is still, do we need to make public statements about our non-recusal, or do the letters themselves sort of stand in that position?
I think your letters are very thorough. Thank you for the reading material.
Did you read them all?
Of course I did.
Okay.
But yes, I think the letters
And are they posted yet, or will they be?
These will be posted as soon as we get our minutes, should be posted to me by the morning. I will see all the documents and we'll get them posted.
Okay, so for the time being, I presume we are not, nobody who has been accused of a conflict of interest intends to recuse themselves on the matter that they were accused. And I don't think we have to dive into that too far. The only question I now have is, the board has received some outside pressure to pursue this further. And section C of the conflict of interest statute allows the board to go so far as investigating whether there's a conflict of interest and voting whether to recommend, not force, but recommend as a board, somebody should recuse themselves. And my question is, does the board want to take any of that up today?
I think our letters cover it clearly, mine does. So I think I'll make a statement publicly and say that, I've been a critic in the past, I have a different hat on now, and, I'm elected by the townspeople to do what was best for the town, and if I feel, I have nothing personal against him, I absolutely do not have anything personal against him. I've been a critic, and most of them have been about, some of the board not following through, and if I find it's an issue, and I think it's a conflict, then I do not have a problem increasing myself. I'm here to do what's best for the town, and
I'm going to follow the ethics liaison's advice and not give a statement here, but I am not recusing myself as well, and my statement is quite detailed, explaining why. I think the only thing that I would like to say in that regard is that as far as any perceived conflicts of interest that Mr. Hayes has complained of, or any perceived conflicts of interest, I believe that Mr. Hayes actually has done better with me on the board than off. My reason for saying that is simply that I had worked hard and long hours to bring his retirement issue to a completion. I softened the board's approach many times last March and April when I first joined to not harshly discipline Mr. Hayes. I have voted for every COLA increase for Mr. Hayes and the rest of the employees, and I've also voted for all the pay raise that Mr. Hayes has specifically received. And then obviously the health and benefits that employees receive, including Mr. Hayes. So I have never, ever taken an obstructive step towards Mr. Hayes or shown any bias in any of the activities that I have participated in. And my statement will otherwise speak for itself. So there's that. The reason I was raising the question about whether the board wants to take any further action is simply one from a legal perspective. Is there somebody who the board may still feel has a conflict of interest that the board wants to create some legal daylight between, just in case things continue to get rougher from a legal sense? In other words, an insulating, distancing step. Let me illustrate what this could look like, and this is only an example. Let's just say the board felt that whatever I had said that caused offense to Mr. Hayes, the board might feel, Mr. Yarrow, I just don't like having the board associated with that kind of a comment coming from you, whether chair or as another select board member. And I think the board should ask whether we should recommend to you that you recuse yourself. Somebody would have to second that, then there's a conversation, and then the board takes the vote. We recommend Tim Yarrow recuse himself from any issue having to do with Mr. Hayes. And in my opinion, that would be a step that you could take if you felt like you had some legal liability or legal jeopardy, or you just wanted to preserve the integrity of the board. I feel like the example I just gave is less appropriate to me than it is to another person sitting here on the board. And again, this has nothing to do with bad feelings towards that person, but I think there is a board integrity issue that is going to be looming. And well, I think it's still, we're there, we're right there. I don't know how much worse this could possibly get in the future, but I think we want to proceed carefully. So I'm asking again if the board wants to take that up.
I think it's time to put it to bed and get down to the town's business instead of acting like we're soap opera.
Anybody else? Okay. Sean, I appreciate where you're coming from. I'm going to take this step, and the board can do as it sees fit. I move that the board recommend that Will Jones recuse himself from any matter involving Mr. Hayes in the future for the extent of Mr. Hayes' employment with the town of Waterford. That's my motion on the record. Can I have a second? This is for discussion purposes only. We're not voting yet.
Well, didn't you just read us something that says we can't do that?
I don't think that's what Tim's saying. I think what Tim is saying is that he recommends.
We just recommend, there's absolutely no force in here. Here's the language specifically provided by the state of Vermont, if anybody wants some assistance with it. This is Title 24, Section 1992, parentheses, small c as the subsection. Authority to inquire about conflicts of interest. Okay. If a municipal officer is a member of a public body, the other members of that body shall have the authority to inquire of the officer about any possible conflict of interest or any appearance of a conflict of interest, and to recommend, keyword, and to recommend that the member recuse themselves from the matter. So that's the authority that we can be operating under. There's no force here. In my opinion, it would insulate members of the board or generally the board, and potentially preserve some measure of appearance of integrity on the board. It's not a comfortable step to take, and if you guys want to so vote me as well, that's the way the board makes decisions. But my motion has been made, and I'm still waiting for a second if you so desire. It'll die on the table without a second.
How long do you have to wait?
I'm just gonna give it a beat or two.
Okay.
Point of order, Mr. Chair, I feel the motion has died. It might be time to move on.
I'm just checking.
We could pause for a moment so I can fix the audio on the video thing.
Do you think you'll have to turn the feed off?
Yeah, I think I'll turn it
Okay.
off and back on
Okay.
again. Okay.